It's 11. Hey guys, welcome to Friday with Springfield Leather.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
What are we doing today?
I think you're gonna make a belt.
Okay.
Yes.
Glad to know it.
Glad to be informed of that. We like to do things last minute here.
Yeah.
Keep him on his toes, you know. So, okay, so we're gonna make a belt, but we're gonna make a pretty specific kind of belt, and we need your guys' help so Denny knows what he's doing.
Yeah, we're gonna make a name belt.
Okay.
It's gonna be carved, but there's gonna be someone's name in the middle of it.
And guess what? One of you lucky viewers, it gets to be your belt. So, what we've got here, Tony's gonna go over to this camera.
No.
No, he's not.
This is a joke, you guys.
Just kidding. Well, so anyway, so I'll explain it when Tony turns his camera on.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. Anyways, so we've got a little container over here that's got some, it looks like small double cap rivet posts only. So this is going to be a guess how many are in the container kind of situation for the contest that you can win your name on the belt that Denny's about to make.
Yeah, we ate all the jelly beans, so this is what we're left with.
Yeah. Those jelly beans are pretty good. So what we've got here, so this little container, this guy right here, so he is about 5 inches wide, 3.5 inches long, and the container itself is 2.25 inches tall. However, you've only got about 1.5 inches of rivets contained in this container. And once again, it's the post only. So if you guys will kind of start submitting your guesses for how many rivet posts you think are in this container, Denny's gonna start doing his thing and getting his belt started, and then as we go, just submit those, and then apparently Tony knows how many are in here, so he will be the one that tells you who's closest.
So closest without going over.
Oh, closest without going over.
And if you guess the same number, if somebody guesses 5,
that's obviously the answer.
And 2 people guessed 5, it'll be the first one between Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
First person that puts it in.
First person. So off to the races.
Be specific.
We want to hear some good guesses, guys. Okay. Everybody good here? Everybody got a feel? This is, yeah. So,
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's right. Everybody got a nice look at that container of
Okay.
rivets there. Let's do this, Denny.
Yeah, we're gonna have to move that.
Oh, I can do that.
We're gonna have to kind of clear the table because I'm gonna start here with just a side of leather. Actually, this is the side that I've cut the shoulder off of. This is Herman Oak leather.
The granite slab's probably okay, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be fine.
I'll get my coffee.
That'll be fine.
We don't want to spill my coffee.
And this is a piece of Craftsman grade Herman Oak. And a lot of people are concerned about the grade, whether it's as good a leather as A grade or B grade. Craftsman grade is the same leather. It just has more imperfections. In specific, this one has a big brand out in the middle of it. But
Yeah. So you guys see that? So you could put that on a cool flap of something.
yeah, this would, in reality, if I was a holster maker, I would love this side of leather.
Yeah.
Because I could work all around that piece of leather. I could even work inside that brand in some parts.
Exactly. And save yourself a lot of money
But, yeah.
just with the footage. So.
But besides that, I can still cut belt blanks out of it over to here, and then I can cut belt blanks from there down to the belly.
Yep.
So the first thing I'm going to do here is straighten this side of leather off. If I can find what I did with my straight edge. Here it is.
Okay.
Let me get some tools up here. I didn't know what was going on, so I brought everything.
We moved his videos to Friday so that he would have more time to prepare, and he still doesn't know what's going on.
Will you set that container up there one more time, right underneath the overhead camera?
Oh, overhead camera.
Let's see if I can get a better zoom.
Ooh.
Got some good guesses coming in there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of little tiny rivets right
I
there.
think it's the extra small one.
Is it?
Just the posts.
Can I make a guess?
Sure, Denny, what's your guess?
My guess is 729.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Are we good? Everybody feel good? Okay.
We're gonna tool your name. Hey, Denny.
I hope so, because I know how to spell that.
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is straighten off this side of leather. It has some imperfections on the edge. These are clamp marks. When they dry the leather, they put some clamps on it here and hang it up.
They have to hang it up, so those
Yeah.
clamp marks are on every single side of Herman oak that you will ever buy.
Yeah, and most other leathers too,
Yep.
when you come right down to it.
Yep.
But they'll clamp it all around and stretch it out flat and hang it up to dry. So I'm going to try and avoid those.
So we're just gonna trim this right off.
Yeah. I'm going to trim this off and just make a mark here. This is just a stylus that I'm using. Now I'm going to scoot it on down here. Mark the rest of it. For most belts, the belt blanks we cut are for the most part 60 inches long, in that neighborhood. It depends
So we're
on,
50 to 60.
yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on what the side of leather that we cut them off of is. But, you know, sometimes a big person needs a little bigger belt, so you've got to
That's
take
why we
that
sell
into account.
72s.
Yeah. And we can do that, and you can do that at home too. It'd probably, I wouldn't
Yep.
have cut the shoulder off of it if I
Exactly.
could do that.
You take maybe before you cut the shoulder off, maybe you take a couple really long strips just in case you get some orders that month for some long belts, and then you block it off how you need
Right.
to.
Right. Now, to cut this, to straighten off this side, a lot of people would use like a utility knife and they would actually put their straight edge on and do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save a little time here.
Denny's really handy with a head knife, which is a learned skill. So. Oh, you're just gonna cut it right off the edge there, are you?
And a lot of people say, man, if that belt is not perfectly straight, it's not going to work. But that's not true either. You're going to have the belt wet and you can straighten it out to a certain extent. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to kind of cut it freehand. I've got a line that I'm going by.
Denny, did you just drop that head knife before we started?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Look at that cut.
I strop my knife just about every time I pick it up. A lot of people think that's overkill, but my knife cuts pretty well. But I've made a pretty good straight cut here.
Yeah, you have. Boom. That's not too shabby, guys.
That's not too shabby. And this piece of leather, this straightening, the guy that I learned to build saddles with, he said, keep that straightening. He said, that makes great bridles, great strap.
Oh,
Because it's actually the strongest piece of leather on the side.
right down the backbone.
Yeah, the most firm. So now, we're going to use our handy dandy strap cutter.
Woohoo!
And this is just a wooden strap cutter. A lot of people are confused about how to use it, how to change the blades. I don't know if I should go through that. You think I should?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's change the blade in this.
Why don't we? Let's do it right here.
Do it over that brand there.
Okay, all right. There's two little screws on the end of this. There's an adjustment screw on that end. This one keeps your bar slide
There we go.
from moving. So I'm going to loosen it up, and then I'm going to loosen up one of these here, and I can push this together. And if I can find a pair of pliers, after I push it together, I'm going to tighten it back up, and
There we go.
I'm going to tighten it back up and loosen this one. Then I'm going to come up here. I will tighten this up. Then I'll loosen this one again. Come down. Then I can loosen this other screw and grab a hold of that. All I was doing by up and down was getting myself. I was looking at what I was doing instead of what you were doing.
I know. I'm trying to
I
look at
was
what
just
you're
giving
doing too.
myself a place to grab onto this with. But anyway, after I've got that out, you can see on the bottom there's a little slot here. And if you look at the top, there's a slot here. And that's where your blade actually goes. And you want to make sure when you put the blade in that you have the cutting edge facing towards yourself. And just kind of find those two slots.
Just kind of shimmy it in there.
Yeah.
Oh. Your hair is really pretty today, Denny.
Thank you.
Hey Liz, will you show that container one more time? We have a few more people coming in. They were making bets on, show what kind of Denny's that. They were making bets on how long it would take before we spilt it.
Oh, hush, guys.
Yeah, just give me time.
What was the measurements on our container again?
Okay, so hold on. Let me find my little leather pocket here where I wrote down my stuff. So we've got 5 inches this way. We've got 3.5 inches this way. And then we've got 2 1/4 inches tall, which is the full container. But then the product only is about 1.5 inches up.
All right.
So 5 by 3.5 by 1.5 inches. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We got our blade back in.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now if you'll look here, we've got a space between.
Oh, flip it around. Oh.
We've got a space between the 2 bars, and that is adjustable too. You want to make it so you've got enough room to get your piece of leather in. Thicker, you need a wider gap, and thinner, you need a narrower gap. And I'm going to say this is about right on this end. Now on this end, we have another adjustment screw, and you can adjust that in and out to make that a level opening there. And it's about right, just like it is. Now I'm going to set this gauge. The gauge is marked. I've got 1.5 inches, and that's what I'm going to make this belt. 1.5 inches. I've got that screwed. Now it's all set up, ready to.
So what Denny just did, there's a screw here on the head portion that tightens everything down in place. So it screws down here and it holds everything in place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You adjust it on this end, and then you adjust the width with this screw down here.
Yep.
Okay. I've got that set.
Okay.
Now let me get this stuff kind of out of the way, and I'll pull our side of leather that's over here. And I'm just going to start up at this end.
When you're working with a firm piece of leather, it's not too terrible to do, but if you have like a softer piece of leather that you're trying to strap cut, it's really nice to have a friend to help hold it.
Yeah, but I'm going to show you how you can do it by yourself.
Okay.
Too. I'm going to start here. We've got a nice sharp blade in here.
Yeah.
Now most people, when they're using this strap cutter, they'll grab their side of leather and pull against it. If you will grab the strap that you're cutting off and pull on it, actually put a strain on it, even with a lightweight leather, you can cut it pretty easy. But the idea is to hold the piece of leather that you're cutting off, not the one that you're cutting from.
Okay.
But anyway, we've got ourselves a nice belt blank here. Another thing I want to tell you, this is the butt end of the hide. This is the head end of the hide. The butt end of the hide is always more firm. Mm-hmm. So it's the end that you want your billet, the belt holes, the buckle holes to be in. Is your billet. You always want it to be from the firmest end of the leather. So anyway, now that we've got that determined.
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a specific side you should put your buckle on.
Yeah, because the buckle itself doesn't create much wear.
Right.
But the end that you buckle into, that's the end that always wears out, those buckle holes.
So not the side with the buckle, but the side with the adjustments?
Yeah, just the adjustment holes.
The adjustment holes,
That's the side you want to be from the butt end of the hide.
Okay.
I call that, is that the tip? Would that be the tip end?
Yeah, that's the tip. And then you've got the turnback, which is where you put the buckle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They call it the billet end.
The billet
end. That's the end with the belt holes in. Okay, I'm just going to set this side of leather aside.
Steve had a quick question on YouTube. Would it be beneficial to wet your leather before you make that cut?
No.
Because then you're going to scratch it all up as you cut.
I say it won't be. Some sides of leather, and this is actually a desirable trait. Some sides are compressed so tightly and the grain is so dense that it's really hard to cut when it's dry.
Okay.
That one you might want to get it wet, but you would have to wet the whole side to do it. So I wouldn't suggest it unless it's absolutely necessary.
Just get a new, put a new blade in there.
Put a sharp blade
in. Yeah, put a sharp blade in.
And those blades too, you can strop those blades.
You can strop anything.
Yeah.
Did we do that in our video? Did we strop a strap cutter blade?
I believe we did.
I think we did. Yeah,
I believe we did.
I think we stropped everything possible that you could ever strop in that video.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah, a lot of people have been watching that. I think it's
we got it all.
5,000 or so views on there.
Yeah.
You're internet sensation, Denny.
Okay.
What's next?
Now then, ordinarily, I would mark my billet tip, but I'm not going to right now because we don't know how long this belt's going to be.
That's right.
So I'm just going to find the approximate center, which I will say is right there. And this is our billet end. I'm going to mark that so I don't miss it. B for billet, not buckle.
That's not confusing.
Okay. Okay, this is our center here. Now then, do we wanna give this away, or am I just gonna guess at a name to put on?
How about 5 more seconds to get your guesses and put our rivets back out there, Liz? Right
Okay, let's do this. This is it, guys.
there. Here, put it in the middle of
Put
the.
it in the middle. There we go. This is it. Make your calls. Place your bets.
She just got back from Las Vegas. So.
That's right. Raring to go.
All right, we're last few seconds to get them in. What are we going to be using to find? What are we going to be putting on here?
We're going to use one of our new CarveRites.
Yeah, we had a question last week about how to use CarveRite. So.
Yeah, and we're going to do that. We're going to go through this today. And I'm excited because we got some new ones. I made these patterns quite a while ago, but we just got them printed up.
Yeah, they finally came in.
They're starting to go
Hey, that's
now.
pretty.
Yeah.
That looks good.
That is two different types. It's actually two different patterns on this one plate here. One's they call it a Coosa dogwood.
A Coosa dogwood.
And this other one is a regular Missouri dogwood.
How appropriate.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully those are going to start blooming soon and the nasty weather will go away and spring will be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had our guy back in hardware come up with a number. I said, just put a number. He's like, how many do you want in there? And I was like, that's up to you. That is your decision.
Okay.
Just let me know what the final number is. So there is the secret number.
And no one knows yet.
We don't know.
What did I guess? 725?
Yeah, you missed.
I missed it. Oh.
Okay.
All right,
Are we ready?
ready for it.
Let's do it. Our secret number is 2021.
Wow.
That was
Was that Jacob?
no, it was. I don't know what his name is. It's the new guy.
New guy. It's Jacob.
It's Jacob. It's Jacob.
Jacob.
And there is our closest without going over, Michael Prayson. He's on
Okay,
YouTube.
Michael.
I think he
Michael.
guessed 2,000 on the number was his guess.
Nice. Not too shabby. So 2021. That's
All right.
clever.
And Michael, you've got a name with 7 letters in it, which is perfect.
Because it centers.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our little belt ninja.
Yes.
Where
Oh, I
would we
put it
put
over here. I had to clear the table.
And let's mark this with a pencil. You show me how to use this. Liz.
Okay, so this little contraption is something that we came out with, I think, a year or so ago. This was actually, for those of you that are curious, an inmate design. So one of our longtime inmate customers had come up with this. It helped him, and he sent us in the templates. And we finally got around to making it into something that we could sell to you guys. So pretty neat little thing that he designed. So what this is it's got 3 different width options on it. So this little piece of plastic, Tony, I don't know if you want to go overhead or not. There we go.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so this, there it is. So this little piece of plastic gives you 3 different size options. And this is the one that we call the Fat Ninja, because that was my name. I like it. And then we also have just the regular one that does 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, and a 1 inch. So it goes the other way. So you've got your 3 different widths. So you've got 1.5 inches here, and then also here that you will pinch. And since we are working with 1.5 inches, you center that on your strap. And then what you do is once you've got it sized, these 4 holes and slot are your buckle end that you will line up with one side of the thing. And then this tip, and then these 5 holes are your billet end.
Billet end.
The billet end that you, and so this works with 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, and a 2-inch wide strip, and then you just pinch at the appropriate location to center it on your own strap. So that's how that works.
Okay. One other thing that I forgot.
Yeah.
Michael, I need you to tell me what size belt you wear.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It would preferably, if you have a belt that you're wearing or wear all the time, measure from the hole that you wear it in to where it bends
So
around the buckle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the turn back. So we'll give you a couple minutes here to get that submitted.
Yeah, we can cut the billet end right now. Let's go ahead and do that. Remember, this is the butt end of the hide.
Will you slide
You can
it?
cut the billet in. There we
Perfect.
go.
Thanks, Denny.
Yeah, we'll cut the billet end first and then.
Oh, and then just center it from
Yeah,
there.
we'll center it from there. Okay, I've got our handy dandy Fat Ninja right here, and I'm using a pencil to do this. Ordinarily, I wouldn't suggest a pencil, but it's no big deal, so I'm gonna use it right now. I'm gonna mark my buckle holes.
You know, I saw there's this lady that I follow on Instagram, and she actually traces all of her tooling patterns out, or maybe she draws them on her leather with a pencil.
Yeah, if you use a graphite pencil, it's erasable. The thing is, when you mark on a piece of leather with a pencil, you don't want to make an impression. You just
Oh,
want
okay.
to, you know,
Just
because
leave the graphite.
yeah, you can erase the graphite back off there, but you can't erase the impression.
Right.
All right. Ordinarily, I would use a strap-in punch to cut this, but we don't have one here. So I'm just going to cut it with my round knife. Actually, I'm going to cut it a different way. I'll show you folks
Can show you a little
how
trick.
I would do it without a strap-in punch.
Oh, didn't you want to? Oh,
I can't. Can you
Hold
move
on.
the camera?
to the edge of the table.
Hang on. Hold that thought.
And hurry up
Just
about it.
Michael's getting his bell, so I'm going to give him some time to readjust this camera while I readjust the camera. Stay there. All right.
I guess we could have moved the table forward a bit.
Nah, that's too much work.
Yeah. Okay.
It's easier for me to move the
All
camera.
right. Now I'll just set my round knife against the edge of the table and grab my leather like this and use my forefinger as a pivot guide.
Woo!
Cut that around like that. Turn it over to the other side. I cut a little bit off center, only cut a little bit more off of it.
You can always grind it away
That's
later.
pretty good.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's not too shabby.
pretty good.
That's a nice cut. And that blade is sharp.
Yeah.
Show us that overhead of how it looks now.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too shabby.
Not too bad.
All right.
Okay. What's next?
Now I thought I brought a hole punch with me, but I didn't. So we won't punch the holes right now anyway. It's better if I don't. I was
Okay.
gonna punch the holes to show you how we punched them, but that's not a big deal.
So I just want to make sure, Michael told us a number for 39. I want to make sure that it's from the turnback to the center hole.
Yes.
It's easier for me to say that than type it in the chat.
So Michael, just confirm that measurement is from where your buckle folds around your belt, or the belt folds around the buckle to the hole that you wear your belt in.
Yeah, and ordinarily it wouldn't be tremendously critical, but we're putting a name on the back of it and you want it to be centered
You want it to
behind
be centered.
you.
You don't want
it
your
to be
name
offset.
cockeyed. No, that's no good.
Just waiting.
We're just waiting on you.
He's and there's a delay going to.
You're under the gun, Michael.
I know.
Waiting on you. Okay. Well, what's next, Denny?
Well, next, after we find out our dimension, we would take our belt ninja and put it down here and mark this
That's
center
right.
slot and
And then mark that side.
Yeah, the two snap holes.
Well, so let's So let's pull our ruler over that way. It's ready.
39.
39.
39.
Here we go.
We're gonna go
Okay,
from center hole to our turnback. 39.
let's measure this. Let's see, go right on 39 to our center hole.
So we've got 39. Okay, we're centered.
Okay, and right here is 39 inches.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, now we'll take our little handy belt ninja, our little fat ninja, and I'm gonna center this belt slot on that 39-inch dimension right there. And I'm gonna draw our slot here. 4 snap holes.
Or Chicago screws.
Or Chicago screws, whatever you prefer, or rivets. Some
Yeah.
people will rivet, you know. Or, and for
However,
the most part, people don't change buckles on their belt all
Right.
that often.
you could sew it down if you felt like
Yeah.
it.
Okay, anyway, now then, to find the center of the name, you go from your center hole, which I have marked, to the center on your turnback slot. And I'm just gonna use my thumbnail and mark the center there. Now we've got the center. That'll be the center of Michael. And Michael has 7 letters, so let's see here.
That's a really grippy table.
Yeah.
Let me try to pull the camera back just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I forgot to mark the end of this belt. Put our ninja back on there.
Oh, you gotta cut it off at some
Mark
point.
the end, yeah, and I'm gonna do that right now.
Not on your granite.
No, draw it on my granite.
Hold on. Don't do it yet. I was trying.
There we go.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna use my handy little round knife here. Cut it just like that. And if you have a English strap-in punch, you can use that on there. You know, I didn't bring one with me.
That's okay.
We have those here.
They're expensive though, so you can do it with other tools.
Yeah.
But Denny, let's see that little piece of leather right here. So I just kind of want to point something out for people that are getting into leather work. There are very good reasons for blocking off your side or not just cutting entire strips out of your leather. It's because you're going to be left with a lot of little pieces. If Denny hadn't cut the shoulder off, we would have almost twice as long of this piece of leather just hanging out. And so all these tiny little things aren't very useful in leather. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're taking advantage the best you can of the hide. Don't just strip it all out. Sometimes we learn that the hard way. Whenever we have new people coming into the shop, they'll be like, oh, I need to cut 50-inch straps. They take a side, they put a straight edge on it, they just send it to the strap cutter, and then they take and they chop off 27 inches off of all of their things, and then we just have a whole bunch of these left over. Yeah. So
That's another thing. If you're in the business of making belts, probably your best cut of leather would be a double shoulder.
sure.
Now Herman Oak, I don't think offers double shoulders, do they?
No.
Maybe
Not
they
really.
do, maybe they don't.
Kind of.
We handle a lot of imported double
Yeah.
shoulders, which are nice. You know, if you make belts, that's the thing
Good
to
to
do
go.
because there's very little waste on a double shoulder out of belts.
Exactly.
They're generally in the neighborhood of 60 inches long, maybe
Yeah.
a little more, maybe a little less, but you can just cut the whole thing up into belts and end up with a few little pieces of scrap on.
Yeah, if you're
on
not
both
making
ends.
anything else besides belts, a side is going to have probably quite a bit of waste for you, unless you just have a tiny kids market as well.
Yeah, and if you're using a full side of leather and gonna make one belt, just straighten off what you need and cut that one belt out of it. Don't cut the whole strip,
Exactly.
and that way you won't end up with that bunch of scrap. You know.
Okay.
One more time, Denny. Can you show us how to find the center of where you're going to start?
Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can mark this center slot or the belt buckle slot. Can you see that?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, this is the center of that slot right here.
There. Yep.
And then down here, we've marked our 5 belt holes. And by the way, 5 is the standard number of holes that you put in most belts. You know, and you're wanting to size it to the center hole.
Right. Sometimes you could do 7, but you always want to have an odd number.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But anyway, this is the center hole that we're going to. So those are the 2 dimensions that we need to find the center of this belt. So now if you can see the 2 pieces together, you know, I've got the center of the buckle slot there and the center hole right there. Put those together, come back here, and that's the center of your belt.
that's where you're going to put your middle letter.
The middle letter. That's right. Okay. Now, before we get started, I always tape the back of my belt when I'm going to stamp it. And I always just use regular old packing tape.
This helps prevent some of that stretch that you get whenever you wet it down and stretch or stamp it.
Yes.
So Charles Abbott had a quick question when we were talking about utilizing your leather properly. Why would you not recommend bend cut of leather?
What?
The bend cut of the leather? Why would you
bend?
not recommend?
A bend is going to be great.
Bend would be great.
They're just more expensive.
You pay a premium price for a bend.
Yeah.
You know, if all you're going to make is some premium quality belts, and that's what you're wanting, and don't have a use for any of the scrap, a bend is a great piece of leather, because it will always be the very heart.
Exactly.
You just may not get it to make if you're making something else. What would you not use to get it? What if you were, I don't know.
Okay, I'm not understanding.
If you're, I'm trying to think of what he was.
I mean, so if you only want to make premium belts, so a double shoulder is going to run you, you know, maybe 75 to $100 for a double shoulder for that kind of cut. Usually they're going to be import leathers. The double shoulder does have a lot more stretch marks, fat wrinkles. It can have more scarring because that's not where the tail is, or that's where the cow is going to rub itself up against the barbed wire because it's a cow and they don't make the best decisions in life. So the double shoulder.
One was they were born a cow.
Exactly. Dang it. So, yeah, you're just like the double shoulder. It's perfect for making belts because of the cut that you're getting. But if you're looking for something that has less blemishes and you're willing to pay that more money, you can buy just a belt bend and we'll cut off all the excess for you. And that's just your call on what you want to do.
Yeah. And if you want to buy sides and want absolutely no waste, you know, you can get a B grade side, but even a B grade side sometimes will have a blemish here and there.
Yeah.
They grade leather by the number and size of blemishes that are on it, you know.
Exactly. And if the bend portion is really, really good, but there's kind of a bigger blemish down here, that's probably still going to be a B grade side because the main portion of the leather is really good and the blemish is kind of in an out of the way spot.
Right.
So
and don't kid yourself, there are no perfect sides of leather.
no, every
Cows are they don't lead a sheltered life.
No, they roam wild in the free. Maybe not wild, but they roam.
Okay, now I'm just going to trim off this excess tape that I put on here. And I'm just using a utility knife, and this is no big deal. Just don't cut into the leather tape. Okay. Now then, we found our center. We've taped our belt. So let's case it. And I quick case. I don't saturate the leather. I just spritz the leather with a spray bottle.
So Denny, actually, I'm curious. What is the difference between what you're about to do and casing the leather?
This is a type of casing.
Okay.
Casing is getting the leather wet.
Okay.
Some people will actually dunk it and saturate the leather and let it set overnight in a refrigerator or, you know, in a plastic bag. And then the next day they'll take it out and you've got to spend 8 hours letting it dry back out to the consistency that you need to stamp it, to carve it. You know, so I don't do that. I have just as good a luck. This is called quick casing.
Quick casing.
I'm still getting the leather wet, but I'm not saturating it. But this first time, and I'll try not to get any of it wet here. I just saturate it like this, spritz it like this, and I'll get it fairly damp when I first start because I've got to have time to, number one, in this case, stamp the letters on it. And number two, then I'm going to use our handy CarveRite and press the impression of the design that we're going to cut. Okay, next thing that you want to keep in mind when you're stamping a belt on it, there's an up and a down.
Oh yes.
And when I'm standing here looking at this belt blank on the table, the right hand side and the right hand side is the billet, the left hand side is the buckle end, and you're looking at it straight up like this.
So if you didn't know it, men and women put their belts on two separate ways.
Most of the women I've built belts for put it on the way a guy does.
Do they?
If I put a name on it.
Denny, which way does your belt go?
Tucked to the other way.
Mine goes to the right.
You're right.
And does yours go to the
You always
left?
accuse me of being left-handed.
Well, I think that's curious because mine goes to the left. Anybody else in the room
Mine
that's
goes to the
right-handed?
left.
Anybody else right-handed in the room?
Abigail, do you have a belt on?
I'm left-handed. I wear mine like yours is.
So Abigail is left-handed, but her belt still goes to the right.
And men's and women's shirts
That's
button
right.
differently.
So so my buttons go to the left and yours go to the right.
Do you know why
Why
that is?
do they
you
do
know why
Because
it is?
society.
No. In the Queen and King time, when you had a servant, the men would put their own shirts on, and the women had a servant to button their shirt. So then it wasn't backwards with somebody else's buttoning their shirt. That's what I've been told, anyway.
Learn new things every day.
Hey, what about where's the bin come from on the side? Where is the bin located?
The bend is with the shoulder cut off and the belly cut off.
What you have left is a bend.
What you have left is the bend, which is the heart of the hide.
Yeah. So it's the back, butt, upper section. So we straight edge the belly all the way off, and then we'll cut the shoulder off, and then that's the bend. It's usually like 13 or so square feet in area. It's the average.
Yeah,
So.
but then most people think that when they buy the bend, they think, well, they've cut the unusable parts off. Belly's usable. The shoulder is usable.
Everything is usable.
Yeah.
It's usable.
It just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
All right.
Okay, let's put Michael on here.
We're gonna just recenter this.
I've got to sit down for this.
This is
Yeah, I
Okay.
still got my mark there.
still got it.
And this is a 3/4 inch letter set that we sell. A lot of other companies sell this same letter set or same type anyway.
So Denny so you have it going the right way for a guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the billet's on the right hand side. That's the right way for a guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pay attention to this now.
I was going to show the letter set, and you said the tape right in it.
Oh, sorry.
And then we had a question about the tape. If the tape gets on the front side,
Try not to get the tape on the front side
leave that
because
residue.
it will leave kind of a blemish. It's not completely unserviceable, but it's not desirable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's why he cut the excess tape off, guys.
Yeah.
Is that a way it doesn't get wrapped around and stuck to the front?
There's our letter set.
perfect.
And these are just
Just,
regular block letters.
I think that's the leather industry standard, is that letter set right
Yes, yes, that's,
there. Been around since the beginning of time.
yeah.
We have a few 1-inch ones, don't we?
Yeah.
Letter sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got every from 1/4 inch up to, we might even have an 1/8 inch set now, do we?
I think we do have a couple, but I think it's only a very specific.
Yeah, anyway, from
Yeah.
1/4 up to 1 inch. All right, I'm gonna spell Michael here.
Yeah, Wonderworks said that Michael spells his name Wonder.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Wonderworks.
AEL.
Yeah, and there was another comment that pants also button the opposite way. But I don't know.
Well,
Mine button to
I
the right.
guess I might have been putting my
Yours button to the
pants
right.
on.
Mine button to the right. I know shirts that I know that some of my daughter's pants do button the opposite way.
Huh.
Not that I've tried to put them on.
All right. Since Michael has 7 letters, that means the 4th letter in the word Michael is the center letter. So I've got it, and that's H in this case. So I've got H right here.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're sure.
What's the other cool thing about letters where you know that the letter is facing the correct way?
I always look at it about 3 times before I stamp it because I've done it upside down more than once. But by rights, there should be a mark on your letter set that's up and down. Like
There's usually a
the
letter
H-
on the back of it.
Yeah, the H is facing towards me right here.
Yeah. H is a bit of a tricky one though, because it's really never upside down.
Right. Right. Now, this first one, I take great pains in making sure it's in the center and square.
Oh
And
no.
I didn't bring them all. I've got them out.
Do you need
And
a
I'll have
heavier
to
one?
go get my maul when I start to stamp.
Sounds like an errand for Stacy.
All right. There's H. Now I'm just going to spell backwards.
We can do
I
that.
thought you were spelling Michael.
Well, okay, I'll spell Michael backwards.
Oh,
How's
okay.
that? Is that your last name, Michael, backwards? Okay, C is next. And I looked at the C. And I leave the H where it was. And I just line the C up right up against it.
Hey, look at that. Oh, let's just
Okay, very good.
let's not get confused.
Okay, there's the I. And the I obviously goes either direction because it's the same both ways. By the way, the I is a lot easier to stamp than the other letters because it's smaller. There's less bearing surface, so if you aren't careful, you'll leave a big old mark in your leather if you hit it too hard.
So, Denny, if somebody was really unsure about their centering capabilities vertically on the belt, what could they do to help themselves out?
You could make a line. You could use a set of wing dividers and set it, set your, okay, say we were, H. Say we were starting over. Put your H on there. Set your wing dividers there. Wing dividers there, which that's pretty good just like it is. Make a very faint line along here
Just a little border.
and along here. Yeah, make them pretty faint though, because you might not want to see them later.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Time for the A.
Yeah, I just had the H and put it away.
It's right there.
Okay, I'm putting it back on. Now I'm going the other direction. All you've got to really keep in mind is go right against the letter, right before it, and make sure you've got it pretty square. And just use your eyeball. Your eyeball, it will be your best measuring instrument in this case. All right, here's the E. E, and I'm glad I did.
Because it was upside down.
It was upside down.
That is really the most depressing thing
Yeah.
is when you stamp a letter wrong.
Yeah. A lot of times you can kind of blur it out, but that's not what you're trying to do.
And last, got an L.
Last one. This is the one you look for.
There we go.
All right, Michael.
There we are.
Can we put our rule up there and see how close the spacing? There's been a few questions about.
How close the spacing is?
Well, if the spacing's all even, so some people have been saying that they have trouble. No, take those off. Oh, you're gonna hand me that one.
Let me work on this one stamp and then we will.
That the spacing, how Denny did it, button up, they're having issues that they feel like the spacing's not equidistant. Like the eye looked like it may be a little bit closer to
It might look like that, but I guarantee when they engineer these letters, they do it for the most pleasing effect to stamp it just like I did.
So it's like a 3. Yeah, because you have, like, depending on what you're stamping, each letter has different, obviously, dimensions and characteristics. So.
And the centers are different. Like the center on that A is gonna be heavy on the left feeling because there's not a lot on the right side of that A because that tail runs off so far.
And I hate to be crude, but if someone's standing behind you looking that close that they can tell a 1/16 of an inch, tell them to give you a little space.
It's a 6-foot rule these days, guys.
Yeah, you.
If you're gonna be that close to it, you might as well just tap on it a little bit.
But anyway, that's all there is to this. And the spacing, if you do it like I said, I doubt that you will ever have anyone come back on you and say, hey, the spacing's all messed up there.
Yeah, no, I think it looks fine.
Yeah. That's the way I've done it for 30 years. And you
We,
know,
we only complain behind his back.
yeah,
So.
I've done a lot of them upside down and backwards, but I've never had anyone complain because one was too close. So,
What if you were doing maybe a strop or something else and you were going to put a name down the center of it? Should the
You
spacing
could
still
line them up like
yeah,
this.
yeah, you just line them up top
the
to bottom.
spacing should be
Same way.
equidistant all the way around.
Same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do. You know, they believe it or not, they think about it when they build these sets, and they do a pretty good job.
That's why the eye is littler than all the rest of them.
Yeah. By rights, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have shifted over just a bit because the eye is narrower.
Yeah.
It's the one in the whole alphabet that's a bit narrow.
So what he could have done is when he lined them all up, and obviously this isn't the right order, but he could have taken this total measurement and then divided it in half.
Yeah.
And then that's where he would have started. But it's
still,
fine.
that's negligible. You know, anyone, like I say, tell them to get back.
Don't look so close.
Okay, I'm gonna wet this up again a little bit because I'm getting ready to lay out our beautiful CarveRite here.
And when you wet your project that you're doing here, say you have to wet it again, you're wetting the whole piece.
Yeah, do not just wet one part or you'll leave a watermark.
Yeah.
And this here, I'm wetting pretty good, but I'm not saturating the leather. I guarantee you it will dry out to,
I was gonna say you wet it real good here just a couple minutes ago before you
Yeah.
stamped the name, and you already had to re-spritz.
yes,
so.
I did. Okay. Liz, you pick which belt we're gonna do.
Let's do the Missouri.
The
We're in Missouri.
Okay,
I don't
all
know
right.
where you are, Michael, but that's okay. Does Michael have a preference?
We'll see. He says looks beautiful to him.
Okay.
All
good.
right.
Good to hear.
Now let's go this way because I'm gonna put the flower at each end. And I'm not gonna do a lot of measuring here. I mean, I could measure how far this is, and I might measure about how far this is when I do the other side, but
So, Denny, for somebody that's not familiar with this specific product, what this is just a piece of clear plastic that has an indentation or a raised
yeah,
portion.
it's a ridge.
Yes.
Can you
The-
run your fingernails across it so they can kind of hear? They should be able to hear on the raised part.
That is the raised part.
Yeah, this is the raised part.
Oh, is it? Oh, there we go. It feels
It
raised from the other side.
shows up on camera better from this side.
Yeah.
But you see, it's just a design, and all those lines are a ridge on the bottom side of it. Now the leather is damp, and I'll just center this on. What's that?
Do you roll it on?
No, I'm going to use a modeling spoon.
Oh, okay, okay.
You can use a soup spoon if you want.
I love
It will
soup.
work. But I'm just going to take. I've got this with the ridges down. I'm just taking this modeling spoon and rubbing.
So this is a really nice thing for people that don't have their feet under them as far as drawing their own tooling designs. This gives you all of your swivel knife lines to be able to start carving from.
And this does a really nice job too.
And it's not supposed to be very deep. It's just supposed to be real faint.
Yeah, just
Oh, that looks
deep enough
good.
that you can see it.
Can you raise it up a little bit? I don't know if you
Can you
can.
just hold it up? Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Nice job, Denny.
Yeah, look at that. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Hey, all I did was rub this leather. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the other, well, let's finish out this side before we get too involved. Now this is a repetitive pattern. So I'm just gonna go right up against that last part there. I'm gonna rub this again.
Well, I think anybody can do this.
Anyone can do it.
I did it the other day and was successful.
Nice.
I know that's hard to believe.
All right, there we go. We've got another good impression there.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go again.
Gonna go
Now
all the way
this
to
is
the
the
tip.
end here. So I'm gonna stop with this flower. I'm not gonna go any further than that. You might not end up just right at that flower, but
Just make a decision.
yeah, just make a decision where you want to stop it, and I'll show you on the other end because we probably won't come out as perfect as we got lucky on here. If I wasn't making this a name belt, I would start at this tip. I would start like this with this flower and go backwards. But since this is a name belt, we don't have that choice. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the other side. Okay,
Now,
for you guys that are gonna get
Oh, hey.
persnickety on me, I'm gonna make,
What was it? What are they gonna get on you, Denny?
persnickety.
Oh, okay.
I like it. That's gonna be. I'm gonna have Darcy use that in our next newsletter. That'll be our word of the month.
Persnickety.
Did you get that, Darcy? I know you're watching.
Okay. Now I'm lining that up. Same distance on both sides.
Gotta make it even.
Yeah. Gotta be perfect here.
You
Yeah.
know what Kevin says? Leatherwork is not about being perfect. It's just about being good enough and having a good time.
That's right. And, you know, everybody wants to be perfect, and that's great. Strive to be perfect, but don't expect to be, because you aren't going to make it.
We're all our own worst critics.
That's right. And that's good.
Yeah.
That's how we get better.
Exactly.
So these CarveRites that we're using, we got about, I think, 16 new ones in.
Nice.
This is one that we pulled off the new one yet, so it's not gone through the new item process. We have maybe 8 to 10 on the website, and I put the links in the chat.
So give it here a couple weeks, and we'll get these finished up.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks.
Okay. Now over here, we've got our 2 snap holes, rivet holes, or Chicago screw holes. Right here, this is the last one headed this way. So that's approximately where I'm going to stop this design. And we got lucky, we've got a flower on that end too. But say we were over here and we wanted to stop it here. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop it right here and show you guys how I do that.
Are we going to line the other side of the belt, Denny?
No, this is going to be a single ply belt.
What weight is this?
This is a 911.
9/11.
Yeah,
Like a gun.
yeah. Okay, this is where that ended up. So when I cut this pattern, I'll show you how I do it. But the first thing I'm going to do is this design has a border on it, and I'm going to make that a little bit deeper, a little bit easier to follow.
There we go.
And I'm going to go all the way through from tip all the way across Michael's name and everything.
Tip to tail.
Tip to tail. That's right.
Just like the cow.
And
Denny, quit making it look so easy. Holy cow.
okay. I don't know if it looks easy. It doesn't feel easy. But here, this is where your bend goes. Your belt goes around that bend on the buckle. So I'm just going to stop it here where,
none of this
where I
matters.
know that'll be underneath.
This is if you were making this as a custom maker, you might put your maker's mark in that
That's
spot.
right.
That'd be a good spot to,
Yeah, I
to
would
stamp
do
your
it
mark.
right here
Yep.
Sorry.
if it was me, which it is. And I might do that, Michael.
You deserve a Denny stamped belt.
And if you guys are thinking you're going to watch me stamp this whole belt, you're wrong.
We've done
But-
beginner and intermediate tooling, and it's both going to kind of go along.
Yes. Yes.
Liz, is that your phone that keeps going on?
It's not.
Okay.
Mine's on the quiet mode. That's a computer.
Okay. Now, I didn't even bring a swivel knife in here.
Well, Denny,
Will you talk to these people for a minute while I go get a swivel knife?
So does anybody have any questions up to this point that I could answer? Anybody? You guys want to tell us where you're from, what you're doing, what the weather's like in your neck of the woods? You know, just little things like that, because Denny forgot his swivel knife, so he's going to go get that. I'm going to sit down like I know what I'm doing.
Is there any swivel knife behind you, Liz? You can take off on it?
I don't think we want me to do that.
You want to put a special mark in there just for
Just for Denny.
just for Michael?
Just for Michael. No, I'm not going to mess with Denny's beautiful belt. He's working real hard. I could bevel the edges. That's what I'm working on a knife sheath at home right now. Just got it all. I stitched up half of it last night, and then I gave up, and I decided to go do the dishes. So.
Robert Guy had a question. Do any of the CarveRites lend themselves to being filigree? So we did the filigree on
Oh,
the last video, and
Yeah,
I
of
would
course.
I would say yes, because
yeah,
with filigree,
exactly. exactly. So like, yeah, if you want to go up here, I guess. So in this situation, filigree is you're just cutting out the background sections. So like this little spot right here, you would cut out in filigree. So this is strictly your swivel knife lines, and then you tool it how you would carve or tool anything else. And so you will have those kind of background little sections that you could cut out instead of background if you wanted to do that. So, and it all just depends on the design. I mean, I guess some, depending on the CarveRite that you're looking at. Ah. Hey, Denny, I took your chair.
All right.
We're talking about filigree, if you could filigree with your carve, but
Certainly.
of course.
Certainly. In fact, I have this belt that's filigreed out there.
Oh, that was probably one of the ones you guys saw last week.
Yeah, I think it probably
Probably was.
Joseph from Alaska said that it's minus 40 there.
That's terrible.
Well, Joseph, come on out and see us.
I think it's positive 40 out here right now.
Working on practicing tooling.
Yeah,
We're talking about
not doing
9 to 10
anything
ounce
outside.
leather with a 2 to 3 ounce backer on it, liner.
Okay.
There was a question somewhere I was going to ask.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, now that I've marked this border, is I'm going to cut it with my swivel knife. Now, I'm not giving you guys a tooling lesson, but I am kind of starting here.
We have that intermediate and beginner tooling. I can jump on that.
Are you going to bevel that line later?
Yes, that'll
Okay.
be the first thing that I
Put yourself
bevel,
out
is
of
the
here.
border line. I'll even bevel out by those letters.
So the mold we have sitting in the way there, right there, you use a Ed Labar. What would be the benefit of somebody using a Barry King?
None. Use whatever you've got.
Whatever feel comfortable in your hand.
Yep.
Use a mallet if that's what you've got.
But whatever works for you. If you don't like it,
Try something else.
try
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, there's,
Or
I just,
grab a stick in the yard.
if you are concerned about which one's going to work best, the only way you're going to know is to use it.
That's right.
Because everyone is different. Everyone might have a different feel to them. I have a Barry King myself that I've used for years, but Ed Labar sent me this one a while back, a couple of years ago,
It's nice.
and I just like the feel of it.
Is it a 15 ounce? Is that what that says? 15 ounce?
But I guarantee, if I didn't have that one, I would be using the Barry King or even the imported model. You
Yeah.
know, it really doesn't matter. Just get used to the one that you have. The only way to do that is to use it.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, this
Okay.
can get kind of boring. Okay, now next step. I don't know how well you can see it, but these flowers just have a round flower center on them, and that's what I'm going to use here. I'll stamp it the very first thing, but I'll just stamp it lightly because I'm going to go back over it later. And I forgot. Oh, I forgot.
I forgot.
I was just talking about that a second ago, wasn't I? You know, I'm just going to stamp the flower center in all the flowers that I have here. Like I said, I'll go back over this later. And that's another reason why it's good not to punch your holes here, because
Oh,
I would be stamping over them.
yeah.
Okay, I've got that. Now, I'm just gonna start, and when I cut with my swivel knife, I always cut all my flowers first, and that's a matter of preference. I do that, I try to get a routine that I can follow. That way I don't forget quite as many things. I still forget, but not quite as many.
Oh. So what are we gonna show them after you get this little flower cut in? I mean, really,
What do we need to show them?
is there anything left besides literally just tooling it?
We're just tooling a little bit. Everybody's just kind of chatting along in chat.
Just tooling it is the only thing that's left, you know, and then we'll go over it and antique it.
And do some dye.
And
People were
of course
asking
we'll
about
finish our
videos,
edges.
so I'm finding
Yeah.
a link for our video series we did, Denny, on the playlist we did for the single loop holster that we did. I think it was a four video series,
I remember that.
and then we had somebody lend us a gun. What gun was that? That was that single shot revolver.
Yeah, it was a 6-shot revolver.
Oh, you're right.
It was Matt Gaunt brought that in for us.
Oh yeah, we did that video with
It
him.
was a Smith & Wesson 357, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I can't remember. I found the link for it. So
I saw him a while back at the store.
I saw him. I didn't say hi, but I saw him this weekend at Sam's actually.
Oh, did
He
you
was,
really?
Yeah, he was a little ways in front of us.
I think I saw him I think it was at Menards.
Yeah. So what kind of projects does everybody have planned for the weekend? Oh, we're just watching Denny cutting flowers here. Any fun leather projects?
I think this is cool for people even to watch Denny do it. We have the intermediate and beginning, and I think we have another beginning series that we did tooling stuff on. Just watch the pro at work here.
Well, even in the classes that I teach, I don't tool a lot myself. I try to show them how to do it. I show them a little bit and then tell them to go for it. You know? So maybe people will get something out of this. Hopefully they don't develop bad habits.
Let's see if I can zoom this camera in here. So hang on, folks.
Got to get over here on the right side of Denny because he's a southpaw.
I don't want people to get dizzy.
Thank everybody for sticking with us last Wednesday where we were floating around that machine. Tony was doing his best to get all the shots that we needed to get.
I was hoping we were going to do that because I wore my boots today.
Oh.
And not my running shoes. These CarveRite Denny's that you have done, these are patterns that you made and we sent off.
Yes, these are all originals,
So I know whenever
good or bad.
when they first kind of came out, people were they're like, oh, these are made in India. Yes, the plastic itself comes from India, but
They're Denny's
these
designs.
are Denny's designs that we send to them and they put it on there for us. So the plastic that you get is, from India. The design you get is from Denny's brain.
Yeah, they're just manufactured
Yeah.
overseas. And there's nothing wrong with those people in India work hard and do a good job.
They do.
It's like people used to complain about Mexican saddles. You know, all that thing's Mexican, made in Mexico. Well, Mexico probably has some of the best leather craftsmen in the world.
They made my shoes and I like them quite a bit.
Yeah, they just don't have a lot of really good material, or they
Sure.
didn't, you know, in a lot of those factories. Okay, I got all the flowers done on that side now. I'm going to come and do these on this side.
And that looks good. You could almost just finger carve this and put some stain on it and call it a day.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's go back and I'll do the leaves next on this.
Stu.
But I'm going to turn it over and come from this in. And don't be afraid when you're doing this, don't be afraid to turn your leather back and forth, however you need to do it to get to whatever it is you're working on.
Accident said it's 65 degrees where he is with 12 inches of sunshine.
Wow,
That's
that's a big sunshine.
how did you measure that?
Somebody's making a chessboard. Denny, do you have any history of when tooling leather started?
No, I do
A
not.
history of it?
No, I do not, but I know, I'm sure it didn't start in the United States, pretty sure of it. But I know a lot of the early saddle makers, especially out west, they didn't have access to a lot of tools, so they made a lot of their own tools out of nails and just pieces of scrap metal that they could come by. But they didn't do a lot of real involved tooling either. They did a lot of I call it a set stamp or a geometric type stamp.
Would you say that maybe Al Stallman kind of populated a bit more?
Oh yes, yeah. Al Stallman was probably the biggest instigator in the United States of leather tooling and elsewhere too. Maybe I don't know. What I'm saying is just a guess on my part.
I mean, leather work has been around since we've been eating animals, probably,
Yeah.
which is most of time.
I remember when we were at Herman Oak and talking to Chef Herman, someone said, "Who figured out how to tan leather?" And he said, "Well, it's probably some caveman killed himself a elephant or whatever." And he said when he skinned it, he just threw the hide over and it landed in a puddle of water. And the next year he came by and and there was a stick in there with it. And he said the next year he came by and there was a piece of leather laying in that same puddle of water. He said it was pliable, you know.
Yeah.
It was by accident. That's what he figures, because no one knows. There was no history written down at that time. And it's the same with leather tooling. I don't imagine anyone said, "Okay, I've invented leather tooling this morning." Whenever you guys get tired of watching me, you just say so and I'll quit.
Well,
Do you like the small barrel on your swivel knife instead of a fatter one?
Yes, I definitely do.
And all of that is really preference as well. However, your
It's
hands-
preference, but the reason I do it is because the smaller barrel, you have a tighter turning radius. I can turn a tighter curve with a smaller barrel than I can with a bigger barrel.
Sure.
And for me, that's just easier. You know, because especially a lot of the Sheridan style carving, it has a lot of scallops in it. You know, you're always turning back and forth, and it makes it a whole lot easier.
Let's see. Christian asked, if making a line belt with 3 to 4 ounce liner, would it hold the main piece rigid enough after gluing and stitching that you could stamp after the whole assembly? If you were going to line
I guess if you figured you had to, or if there was a reason that you didn't stamp it beforehand, yeah, I would say you probably could, but it's not desirable. You wouldn't get nearly as good a result as you would.
Yeah, because that liner's cushioning all of the stamping that you're trying to
Right.
do.
Exactly.
So ideally, you stamp it first and then you line the belt when you're done.
I don't know if you all can see this or not, but this leather, it's starting to dry out already. It's getting back to almost a natural color, the original color. And it's actually, it's getting a little bit hard to cut, so I'm going to add a little more water to it. And I know someone's going to say, well, if you would have soaked your leather first and let it dry back out, it wouldn't dry out that fast. But you're wrong. If you let it dry out to where you can tool it, it will still dry out at the same rate. This, now that it's wet, I've got to be pretty careful when I'm cutting because the leather is kind of mushy when it's this wet. But I can still do it.
Ideally, would you let that sit for a minute or two before you look back at it?
Yeah, you want it to start to turn back
Right.
towards original color, but if you're careful, you can still cut it like this.
Michael Young is also enjoying the stream here and just watching you tool in this kind of conversation of watching. I think so many people can just learn just by
Observing.
watching someone.
Well, yeah, if I would have had someone to watch and someone to try and emulate, I think I would have learned a lot faster.
Sure.
In fact, I would probably know how by now. I'm still learning. I figure the minute I think I know how to do it, that's when I'm in deep trouble.
Let's see. Why is Denny using a bracelet on his watch and not a leather strap? Didn't your wife buy that for you?
Yes, my wife did. This is Native American sterling silver, and I love it.
That's why he's wearing it. When your wife gives you something and you love it, you might as well wear it. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's a beautiful strap. Not everything in our lives has to be leather, guys. It's okay.
So I was doing some research on leather carving, and some of it was dating back as far as 711.
Like-
And they were doing decorative scrolls and kind of flowers on things that they were using in their battle.
Yeah.
How much of it's true or not? I mean, everything on the internet's not really true.
You know, I think I've seen things about like Mongolians had tulip
Right.
leather years and years and years ago. But date wise, I have no idea.
Right.
But I
mean,
know-
they've been making armor. That's what they made armor and ways to keep warm.
Yeah. Well, folks, I've got half of this belt cut, the big half.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You'll notice there's a lot more tooling on the billet side of this belt than there is on the buckle side, because the billet is longer.
It's right.
The
Because
buckle.
you gotta have the extra room there for the adjustments.
Well, Denny, will you start at the tip of that and then just kind of, or the part that you haven't tooled yet, or the side you have started cutting, and we'll just slide down it and kind of see it?
Ooh. Guys, this is really awkward. I don't know if you've... So this is the uncut side that's just got the flower centers and the turnback. Oh, Denny, you want to pull that a little bit. And then got the name and then just all his cut lines. There it is.
And when I start to bevel, like I was saying earlier, the first thing I'll bevel will be the border. And then when I start to bevel the design itself, I'll start with the flowers, just like when I cut it.
Okay.
Then I'll do the leaves, and then I'll do all the chicken necks and all that kind of stuff. But I always try to follow a routine, because especially when you bevel, because there's a lot of lines on there, and
Yes.
it's easy to get confused. So develop a routine, and
Well, especially with beveling, you're creating the kind of contrast between
Yeah, the
between what's
relief,
lower and what's sitting higher in your design. And so if you just kind of bevel everything all together, you may forget what's supposed to be under your other
right.
like things.
You may bevel over something
Yeah.
that needs to be over.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want your top on your bottom, you want your bottom on your bottom.
That's right. That's right. But anyway, Michael, I'll try and finish this belt for you this week. Maybe next week.
There's
we'll
only a
go.
few hours left in this week. Oh no, you're here on Saturdays.
Yeah.
He's teaching
This
classes.
coming week. How's that?
You had a visitor. We had somebody from YouTube kind of comment, and I think that they ended up coming in last weekend. I don't know if they got to meet you or not. But if somebody did come in and wanted to meet you,
Bring them on.
bring them on.
He's
Bring
here.
them on.
All right, guys. Anything else?
I'm trying to think of what we have planned out next week.
I was thinking we were going to start on a pair of shafts. Is that what we're going to do?
I
Are you
believe
going
that
to be here?
will be. No, I won't be here.
You won't be here.
Yeah, people won't have to deal with me.
I'm going to make Liz a pair of shafts.
Yes, finally. Those hair-on ones were good, but they were a little big.
We'll make these to fit.
And I'm not sure that we know what we're doing on Wednesday.
We'll show people how to measure them.
Okay.
You know, because that's always everybody's confused, and how to alter the pattern, because I'm gonna use the same pattern that we sell in our pattern pack.
Okay. Are we gonna do the big fringy ones?
Yeah, we're gonna do shotguns, the zipper legged ones.
Okay.
And they'll have fringe on the outside.
Fringe. He'll show you how to cut fringe. That's a question
Yeah.
that everybody asks.
Yeah, but this will be like a 2 to 3 part series. on
Okay.
shafts.
So brace yourself.
Yeah,
It's gonna take all February.
probably will. Probably.
Alan was asking about the shading and stuff like that. If you go back and you watch, just look for the intermediate tooling video. We did a live one of it. I think it was 3 weeks that we did that.
Yeah.
And then there's a beginner one, and then we also have some recorded playlists that we did.
Yeah. We've got a lot of tooling videos.
Yeah,
Check those out.
but as far as the tool progression, I always cut my pattern first, and then I'll bevel.
Bevel.
After I bevel, I'll do my background.
Background.
And this isn't the way everybody does it, but I always do my background then. And then I'll use a pear shader or a thumbprint, whichever one that I'm using at the time. Most of the times a thumbprint. And then I'll do all the other little tools. There's several other tools that you
But mainly we cut, bevel, background, and then you start decorating.
Yes. Yeah, all the decorative things. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, folks.
We'll see you next week, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right.